Hello, everyone. My name is Kwame Ross, and today I want to have a story time because I really don't do this, but I want to talk about how I became pregnant at the age of 14 and became a teenage mom at 15. I told people pretty much briefly, I've never really gone into detail and shared the story before, but people know that I did have a child when I was very young. And I kind of want to just go about this. Now, when I was a teenager, I was facing depression. I talked about it before in the Soul Tie video that I made. I talked about how my father placed me on Eve altars. When I was very young, I had an outgoing personality. I easily made friends. I accepted everyone, and I was favored. People loved me. And I don't know, the devil working through my father, sometimes the devil can work through people in your family. They could be envious, like I talked about in the video, that people were envious of my personality, my family. And my father did some evil, wicked things to me. He wasn't the only one, but he started all of this. And the Lord was showing me as I got older, my why all these things had happened, but my personality just started changing. When I was probably in like third grade, my entire personality had changed. I was withdrawn. I was extremely introverted and quiet. I was anxious. People picked on me all the time. I started getting teased in school. I didn't know why. No one knew why. There was nothing wrong with me. And all of a sudden, people would just talk about me constantly and laugh at me, and I could not make friends. I was alone. I was isolated. And my father had done these things. He had put out these curses on my life and pretty much to hinder me and to stop me from being what God wanted me to be. And so I was dealing with a lot of, rejection issues. Not only that, my father introduced me to pornography when I was 5 years old. He showed me what he called a dictionary, but it was a magazine with naked people having sex. Back then they didn't have much of the videos. They might have had videos, but they had like magazines then, like porn magazines. And that's what he showed me. He sat there on the bed. And I recall to this day, he opened it up and I looked at all these pictures. He says a dictionary, and he showed me if I wanted it, I can get it. And I had an addiction ever since then. I had an addiction to porn and masturbating, until God actually delivered me from that when I was much older. So during that time, I was getting teased a lot. I didn't have any friends. I started gaining all this weight. They put out curses to make me fat and obese. I had a nice, small, athletic build like my mom, and they put out all these curses on me, my father, his grandmother, and other people in my family who were just envious and influenced by Satan. And so I didn't have any friends. So I was lonely. Not only that, my father was doing things that made me uncomfortable. I talked about this before. My father it was like borderline sexual abuse. To me, it was abuse because he would kiss me in certain places, like on the back of my neck, and ask me to, how it made me feel, like if it turned me on or anything like that, and asked me if I would date him if I was his age, like if we were the same age, would I date him? And I thought all this stuff was very disgusting because that's my father. I didn't see him in that type of way. And he would, lie on top of me or do things to me when I was like a certain age, and point to his erection, and made me feel disgusting. So I really didn't want my father to be attracted to me in that way. And not only that, I just was hurting, and I was looking, just trying to reach out to someone. So I became interested in boys. I wanted the attention of boys, and I didn't want the attention of men, but I wanted the attention of boys. But boys wouldn't talk to me because I was getting teased so much in school. They were afraid to talk to me. And I know this by fact because one of the boys who actually, after I had left the school and was much older, we were adults, he had came up to me and said he always liked me and everything. He was afraid to talk to me. And it was because a lot of people were teasing me, and I just did not have a good childhood at all. And so I remember wanting to talk to boys, and I lived on a street where there were this house with a bunch of men in their 20s. These are young men in their 20s. And I was graduating from 8th grade. I was walking down the street. One of the men came up to me, and he asked me how old I was, wanted to talk to me because I look, I might have looked a little older for my age because I was developed. Like I said, I was gaining all this weight. Um, I wasn't fat, but for my age, being 13 or just only 13 and 14 years old, I looked like someone who'd be 20 or 21. But, the boy asked me, how old are you? He said, where are you going? I was dressed up. I said, I'm graduating from school. He said, oh, graduating from what? High school? Says, no, 8th grade. And he was like, oh. And so he knew then that I was too young for him, so he kind of backed away. So he was in this house, though, with the father, the man who's going to end up being the father of my kid that I'm talking about. They all were associates. They all hung at this house. I don't really know how they knew each other. They were friends or whatever, relatives, friends or whatever. They were all in this house. And so he knew I was 13. I told him I was 13. I was graduating from 8th grade, so he didn't pursue me anymore. So let's fast forward to 9th grade the next year. Now, I was going to a private school. I caught the bus to school by myself. I had been catching the bus to school since I was like in 3rd grade. And my mother used to go with me, and then to a point where she felt I was responsible enough to go by myself because I was a smart girl, and I would just get on the bus and would catch 3 buses to school. Public transportation. Back then, it wasn't a problem with that. This was like in the 80s, okay? This was normal. It was 80s, 90s. It was okay. So I was catching the bus to school, and I remember I started seeing this older gentleman who was, like I said, he was one of the guys who I'd seen at the house, and he kept trying to talk to me, and I would turn him down. I turned him down quite a few times, and this man would kind of stalk me. Like I don't know how he knew when I would leave out for school, but he started timing when I was leaving out to catch the bus. And he would be at the corner, literally at the corner, pretending that he was on a payphone. Back then we had payphones where you put a little quarter in there and make a phone call. He would stand at the payphone waiting for me, and then he would pursue me, and I kind of ignored him and said, I'm getting on this bus, you know? And so eventually these guys, they start calling me names. It was like a hostile situation. I was afraid to just walk down the street because it's like back then, boys were so immature, young men were so immature. If a girl turned them down, they would call you names. They would try to talk to you. And I'm walking down the street, all these men would be outside, and they would try to talk to me, and they would call me names. And I keep walking. And I told my dad about it. He didn't do anything. He didn't say anything to those people. So I started feeling like, you know what? I'm going to try, and maybe I'm going to talk to a boy. You know, I wanted to get the attention. I was around kids in school who were young girls who were talking about saying they had sex and all this other stuff. So I was curious, and I didn't want a man. I wanted a boy my own age. And so I saw this guy once again who I had been turning down. He was too old for me. I knew he was too old for me. But he just kept on persistently pursuing me. So he came to the bus stop one day and asked me for my number again. And so this time I just gave it to him. I gave him my number. And he asked me, could he come over? And so I said, yeah, you can come over tonight. So I don't even know why I did this. I just knew then that I wanted to stop being teased. I wanted my father, I didn't want him to look at me anymore in that type of manner. And I also was just curious about having sex. So I just finally gave this young man, my number. He was much older than me. I was 14 years old. So that night, my mom asked me to go to church with her, and I said, no, I don't want to go to church because I knew I'd already invited this man to come over, which I shouldn't have done. And so she's like, okay. I told her I was sick or something like that. I lied and said I was sick. So later on, my mom went to church without me because usually I would go to church with her. And when she left, this guy came over. He kind of called me and asked, is my mom gone? And I said, yeah, she's gone. And he came up the street, but he was not alone. I thought he was going to be alone. He comes up the street with some guy with him, and I'm like, who's that? And he says, oh, his cousin. So he comes inside. We sit on the couch for a while. I was nervous and scared. I didn't know what to do. We were just sitting on the couch watching TV. I just, I was new to, I hadn't had sex. I was a virgin. I was new to all this stuff. I hadn't even had a date with a boy before. So he starts telling me to come in the bedroom. And, I didn't really want to do it, but I just got up and went in the bedroom with him, and he wanted to have sex. I said, no, I don't want to have sex. And he kept on pressuring me to having sex with him. So I ended up getting undressed, and I let him start trying to have sex with me. And when I say trying, it was because it was very painful, and I did not like the experience. And I told him to stop, but he did not stop. He kept going. So I didn't realize at the time that this was rape. This is a 21-year-old man. I was 14. Not only that he had statutory rape with me because he was too old and it was illegal, but I had told him to stop, and he persisted to keep going. I was in pain. I wanted him to stop, and he did not stop. And so he kept on, and I was just lying there very uncomfortable near tears, and this man just kept on having his way with me. And then after a while, it started feeling great, and then all of a sudden he just stopped. I didn't know why he stopped, but back then I didn't know why he stopped, but I realized later on he stopped because he had already ejaculated inside me. So he got up, and then he brought his cousin in the room. I saw his cousin come in the room, start taking his shirt off, and I'm wondering what's going on. I didn't know anything. I was so naive, and I'm wondering what's going on. He says, well, if you want to be with me, you're going to do this with him also. And I said, no. And this guy, I remember he had a horrible odor. He was just so musty, and I was just so turned off. And I did not want to do anything. But this man was like, come on, you can do it. You do this with him. And so his cousin put us on a condom, and I lie there and just let him have sex with me. Now, the guy who got me pregnant did not have a condom on. And so everything after it was over, I didn't say anything. He said he'll call me or whatever. He'll see me again. And he came by. He would wait for me again as I was going to school. And I was so naive. I just thought that, this man actually liked me and we were going to be in this relationship. And so he would wait for me at the bus stop like he used to. And I would be going to school. Like I would walk down the street to go to school and he'd be waiting for me. And he says, oh, come with me today. And so I would cut school to go to his house. He went to his brother's house. And I started getting sick. Probably like a few weeks later, I started having these headaches and I would throw up and I didn't know what was wrong. So then I start putting two and two together. Like, okay, maybe am I pregnant? I didn't get my period. And so the next time I saw him, I cut school, and it was like he would probably do it once a week, have me cut school with him. He would be waiting for me to cut school. And so I went to his house, his brother's house with him. He took me to his brother's house, and we were sitting on the couch, and he had me go in the room and have sex with him again. And we were watching TV, and I lie there for a minute, and I say, you know what? We're going to have a baby soon. I think we're going to have a baby. And he's like, what? And I said, I told him I felt I was pregnant. And I'm thinking that we're going to get married. I was so naive. I thought we were going to get married and everything. And he didn't seem very happy. I didn't get the response that I thought I would get. And so after I told him that, he didn't say much else. He pretended like he would, take care of the baby. I said, I want a girl. We were just talking about it. And like I said, he just really didn't you could tell he wasn't really excited about it. But again, I was clueless and thinking, oh, we're going to be in love. We're going to be married and all this. We're going to have our child. So he took me home, and after that, I didn't see him anymore. I kept trying to call him. He wouldn't answer the phone, and I couldn't contact him at all. And I was devastated, and that's when I finally knew that, he decided to leave me alone because I was pregnant. I hid it from my mom for a while until she finally found out that I was pregnant. She wanted me to get an abortion, and I begged her to let me keep my child. I wrote a letter to her and everything, and I ended up having my daughter. I was 15 years old, but I was depressed. I was depressed because I was alone. I didn't have the man around who I thought, we would have been together. And he was 21, I was 14. My mom tried to get him arrested, but he had lied to me about his name and everything, so we couldn't find him. And I didn't know he lied about his name until I was talking to a girl one day, and she was telling me, she's telling me, that's not his name. And she didn't give me his real name either. I hadn't seen him for a while after I had my baby until I was pushing my daughter down the street in a stroller, and one of his other cousins who stayed on the street asked to see the baby. He says he was kind of shocked. He didn't know I had a child. And I showed him the baby, and I told him whose child it was. And he was like, oh, that's my cousin. And he looked at the baby and said it looked like him and everything. And he could tell that was his child. So later on that evening, because I told him that he wasn't around, he hadn't seen his baby, he came to the house. The cousin had brought the baby father to the house, made him come to the house. He was he didn't want anything to do with it. And he lied and told everybody that I told him that I was much older than I was, which I didn't. I told him I was 1 year older than what I really was. Yes, I was 14. I told him I was 15, but he knew I was too young for him. That's why he stayed away. When I told him I was pregnant, he knew that he was in trouble. So he didn't come to the house until his cousin brought him over to the house. And that was when he saw his daughter for the first time. He looked at her and said he'd be around. My mother said she didn't want to press any charges or anything on him. She just wanted him to take care of his responsibility and be a father. And I didn't know it at this time. This man had a wife and everything. He had kids already. He had a family. And so he really didn't want to be around in that situation. He basically just used me, found a naive young girl and got her pregnant and left. So that was the last time he had came by for a while. It wouldn't be till like 2 years later when I was much older. I was 17 years old. I was much more mature, where somehow I ran into him again, and he wanted to come over. Now, I guess he thought he was going to come over to have sex with me. I wanted him to come over to see his baby. So he came over, and he didn't pay any much attention at all to his daughter. He showed very little interest in her. He kind of mocked me about the type of shoes I had on her feet because they were from Payless. And I said, well, if you have a problem with the shoes, you need to buy her some shoes to wear. And so he took us to the store and got my daughter a sucker and a 10-cent popsicle. And that is the only thing he's ever contributed to her to this day. When we were at the house, I wanted him to spend time with his daughter, but he kept trying to get me to have sex with him. And I wasn't falling for it anymore. Like I said, I was much more mature. I was 17 years old. I says, no, I wouldn't have sex with him. And so he got upset and proceeded to take my phone, our house phone. Back then we had a landline. He got on the phone, called another girl in my face, and asked to go over her house. And so he left because I would not have sex with him, even though he was there to see his daughter. That was the last time I saw him. He only came around, he probably only saw his daughter a total of two times, three at the most, I think, and she was very young. She hadn't seen him ever since then, and she always had issues with that ever since. And I had issues also, because I feel like, yeah, I was rebellious by lying to my mom and being with this man, but at the same sense, I was a lot younger than this man. I feel like when people judge young girls who are like 14 and 15 years old, especially like with that R. Kelly case, you would hear how they say, oh, the girls were fast and this and that, but people never realize, well, why is the girl like this? Why do you blame a child who is not even emotionally and mentally mature? And obviously for a 14-year-old girl to be having sex, something must be going on. You never blame a child in that situation. This was an adult man who was 21 years old, and when you have an adult, whether the child is mature enough or if the child is being fast, there's an adult in the situation who should be behaving like an adult and decide not to have sex with a minor child. Now, this man obviously had issues of his own to be behaving the way he behaving and running after me, but it's no excuse for that. There's no justification. And I always carried a lot of resentment and bitterness because I felt like, he got away with it. He did not have to take care of his kid. I don't know what happened to him. I know my daughter had insecurities and emotional problems ever since because she always grew up without a father. And, it was just hard and difficult on our entire family. And, I had issues because of my father introduced me to porn and not being a dad to me and borderline molesting me and everything else. And I know there are a lot of girls out here who struggle with that type of stuff. They're seeking love because they didn't get the love of a father, or they've been promiscuous because they've been molested or raped and certain things have happened to them. There's no child, a normal child who's not been exposed to adult things is not going to be thinking about having sex at 14 and 15 years old or 13 years old. And for an adult to sit here and say that these children are old fast and blame it on them, they're not accountable. And I always felt that man should have gone in jail because, like I said, he was 21 years old. He knew I was too young for him. He stalked and preyed after me. And then when he got me pregnant, he ran away and left me to take care of and raise a child by myself. My mother ended up getting custody of my daughter because I was too young and, I wasn't ready for a child. But it's just the pain, the long-lasting pain that went with it. And it's like that was something that I had to get over with because it's like I felt like God did not look out for me. I didn't blame God because I was the one who was rebellious. But at the same time, I'm like, you never vindicated me for that man doing that to me. You saw that I was a hurting girl who had no friends, was being teased in school. Father didn't pay any attention to her. He introduced me to pornography and might as well say he was molesting me himself. And not only that, I felt that man raped me. I told him to stop. If he would have stopped when I told him to stop, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant. I knew nothing about sex. I didn't even know he had an orgasm. I didn't know what he did. I didn't know he had ejaculated inside me. That's how clueless I was. And it's like, I had never shared that story with anyone but my family. And it's like, I wanted to speak about it now because it's like, I know there are a lot of women in this situation and we've been abused, we've been hurt, we've been done wrong by men. And, I just want to be like an advocate for those type of people to say that, I feel your pain. And I can relate to it. I can empathize with it because I have gone through it myself. And, people might look down on you. People look down on me and said different things because I had a kid at a young age. And it's like, who are they to look down on you? They don't know you. You don't have to answer to anyone. You know who you are, God knows who you are, and you're not the person who made that mistake. You're not defined by your mistakes. You're not defined by past things that happened and certain things that you've dealt with. You can't overcome that. I've gone on, my daughter, yes, she went on and graduated from college, and she's an intelligent young woman. And, there are still issues that she faces to this day because of not having a father in her life. And people might think it's not important to have a father, but that is something that a daughter, a child will always struggle with. Even women who are older in their 30s and 40s, they still struggle with not having a good male, positive male role model in their lives. And it affects them, is detrimental. And I feel like in these situations, we shouldn't be judging these people, but we should be showing them love and helping them heal, encouraging them and supporting them in every way we can. Because, at the end of the day, we all have situations and things we've done that we're not proud of. And it's not for us to judge anyone. It's not for us to ridicule those people, but we're supposed to show them love. And I just want to share that because, it's something that I kept hidden for a long time. I was so ashamed of being a teenage mom, having a child, getting pregnant at 14, having a baby by the time I was 15. I bore that shame for a really long time. And, I had to allow God to help me to not be okay with it, but to accept who I was and not hide it anymore, because it's like those things happen. Yes, it happened, but you know what? God has molded me and changed me and turned me into a different woman. Despite what I've done in those early years, He has turned my life around. And if He did it for me, He can do it for you. No, I don't know whatever happened to the man who got me pregnant when I was 14 years old. I don't know whatever happened to him. But I know that, I had to allow God to help me to forgive him, because for so long I actually hated him. I hated him for how he broke my heart and hurted me and hurted his own child, because he couldn't step up to be a father to her. And that hurted her. And as a result of her pain, it hurt me. It hurt me to be alone, to be left alone at 14 years old, to go through a pregnancy without the man there who got me pregnant. And so, yeah, before you can just ridicule these women, these young girls are hurting. Reach out to them. What is it that causes them to behave this way? People are always so quick to talk about what a person's done, but what is it that causes them to behave in that manner? Instead of judging someone, put yourself in their shoes. Try to empathize with that person. And even if you wouldn't have done the same thing in their situation or made the same choices, everyone is different. Everyone responds differently to different things. So it's like, how about we start being sympathetic to people instead of judging them? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.